good YouTube? It's Adam from I'm a Musical. Welcome to a brand new video. Today we're going to go ahead and break down Future's MJ. The tempo for this one is 117 beats per minute, and the track is produced by Wheezy, Bryan Yepes, Romil Hemnani, and 241. So for this remake, we're not going to make it from scratch. We're going to go ahead and break it down track by track, section by section. There are 3 sections, so let's start off with the intro. Alright, so starting off with this main lead right here, it sort of dictates that entire sound for the intro. So it's a rather simple pattern, but for the sound, I'm using Logic's Alchemy, and the preset is called Angelic Analog on the Warm Performance. The only thing I really changed here is if you go to the Advanced tab, I added in quite a bit of glide, so you get those notes sliding into each other. So it goes from this note to here, but instead of stepping into that note, it's gliding into that note. And then for the effects, we're just adding a little bit of movement. And for that, I'm using Logic's Tremolo. So this right here just adds a tiny touch of movement to it. It's very subtle. And then we have some distortion using Logic's Chroma Glow. Just to kind of beef it up a little bit. And then layered with that, we have this lead layer here. Just to give another tone that we needed for that sound. So it's following the same MIDI pattern. For that, we're using Logic's Alchemy. And once again, a lot of glide on this synth so that the notes are sliding into each other once again. And the preset is called Aqua Mallet on the Bright Drips preset. So those two together. And then we have an atmosphere sound to give us that sort of dark, ominous vibe that you hear in the original track. Following the same pattern once again. For that, we're just using a soundscape in Logic's Alchemy. The preset is called Airplanes on the Cold Wind Performance. And for that, I just really added some more reverb on the sound using the Cave preset. I like to use that preset a lot in Logic's Chromaverb, FX Cave. And some EQ just to take out a lot of the low end rumble that we get in the sound. And then there are several effects in this sound, and we get more of them in the next section. But for this one, we get this one right here. It's like this bubble riser sound. For that, once again, using Logic's Alchemy, the rise bubble sine preset on the wide performance. So let's take a listen to all those sounds together. So that's the foundation to the intro, and then to give it more of that scary, ominous sort of build-up type of vibe, we're getting this bass synth right over here. Now for that sound, I'm using a plugin by yours truly. It is called Ye's. The idea behind this plugin is take the iconic bass sounds of Ye, Kanye West, and make a bass plugin. So Ye plus bass equals Ye's. And the preset I'm using for this one is Sicko Mode, Reese Sicko Mode preset. Now the interesting thing about this bass sound is that the bass sort of builds up with a filter opening up. Let me show you the automation on it. So if I hit A on my keyboard in Logic, I have 3 different lanes of automation. 1, the volume gets louder at the end here. 2, we get an EQ filter opening up here. So this filter gets opened up to make it brighter. And then we also add some automation for some distortion to make the bass a little bit fatter just for this end sequence that we need. And for that, I'm just automating the distortion module, the vary drive here in Logic's Fat Effects. So we take a listen to this in context towards the end of the pattern. Let's just take out our flutes for now. That's going to build up right here. Now let's get to those flutes. So for the first flute sound, it sounds like this on its own. I'm using Logic's Alchemy. And the preset over here that I'm using is the 80s air pad on the dissonant flute preset. I took off the dissonance on the sound. If you go to advanced and on the source B, I took out the tune. It was pitched up by 5 semitones. I just brought that down to make it 0 and added in a lot of glide so that the notes are sliding into each other once again, just like the other notes. And the same thing for the secondary flute as well. We're getting that glide thing happening using Logic's Alchemy. A lot of glide. The preset is called the Mellotron Flute on the Air Performance. And for both of these flute sounds, I am using a tremolo just to add some movement to the sound. So here it is with it off. With it on. So you kind of get that vibrato effect on that flute. And then last but not least, we have this one 808 hit, the same 808 that we use for the rest of the track, just a different hit here. It sounds like this. And that's pretty much it. So all together for the intro. So this is section 2 or section B. We'll start off with the main sound. It is the same one as this one right over here, just with a different sort of filter on it just to make it a little bit brighter. Same preset though. We're using the Angelic Analog preset. Layered with that sound, we have like this zipper lead type of sound. For that, I'm using Logic's Alchemy. I'm using a pad for the sound. The preset is called Beautiful Ascent on the Warm Pulse performance. And on the sound in particular, I put some tape modulation on the sound just to give it some pitch variations on it. Here is using Logic's tape delay to get that effect on the modulation section. Just gives it a little bit of analogness to the character of the sound. So those two together, these are pretty much the main sounds. Then you have these two sounds here just for texture. You can also call it like an atmosphere type of sound. For that, I'm using Logic's Sample Alchemy, the Divine Interference preset under the pad category here. Nothing was changed to that, just a little bit of EQ. And for the second texture sound, I'm using Logic's Alchemy, the Klystron preset on the Droning Current 1 performance. So all four together. It just adds that ominous vibe. And then we get this sound right here. Sort of like an analog string type of sound. Using Logic's Retro Synth, the Chill Out Pad preset. It's basically like a sawtooth type of pad. And once again, I applied the same analog vibe using Logic's tape delay here on the modulation section. All right, next we get two sounds from the intro. We got this atmosphere sound, except it's playing at a much lower volume. And we get this riser effects, that bubbly effect sound. Just playing a different pattern. And then we get into those other effects that I was talking about. For one, we get this fall effects here. And then we get this sound as well. Just to add to the atmosphere of that other effect sound. For that first dropping effect sound, I'm using Logic's Alchemy. You can find it under the sound effects category, the motorizer preset with the nose dive performance. Just added a little bit of chorus and EQ for shaping. Chorus just to soften the sound up. And this effects over here, I'm using a stock sound in Logic's, one of their drum kits over here. I just typed in, I forget what I typed in for it, but the sound is called Synth Sweep Cinematic Funk. And then layered with that, once again, is the bass sound from the intro, just with a little bit of a different filter on it. For this one, we just took a little bit of the more of the lows out because there is an 808 playing with it. For that, once again, we're using the Yepes bass instrument with the same preset once again. So one thing on this main sort of section over here for the main sounds, I do have an effects chain on it just to kind of glue them together. One, to add in some movement that I heard in the original track. You're getting sort of like this pumping effect. So I'm using a plugin called Duck Out by yours truly. I'm using the pump mode and it's just giving movement to that sound. I'm using shape 1 with a speed at 1.2. So without it, it sounds like this. Let's take off all the effects here. All right, so it sounds a little static with it. It kind of gives it that dropping out sound, pumping sound that you hear in the original track. Now, if I push this all the way up, you'll hear what it's actually doing. But we don't need it that heavy. So what I'm going to do is just undo that, go back to our other state. And then for the EQ, just a little bit of boost in the lower frequencies. Let's turn that back on. And finally, our step effects, just to put it in more of like a space, a little bit more movement as well. I'm using the bubbling shimmer preset and Logic step effects. And then next, we got the drums. So the 808. Got a nice roll at the end here. All right, we got a hi-hat with a nice roll at the end. And to kind of get that sort of build up hi-hat sound, for that, all you gotta do is put in your roll and then just add a velocity sort of fade going all the way up from lowest to highest. Just so it's not stagnant at the same velocity, kind of gives you that sort of build up sound. And then you got the first snare. Then you have another perk sound, or sorry, just a perk sound. Layered with the snare. And then at the end of the 8-bar pattern, you have the snare roll that is matching the 808's roll as well. Except over here, it's a little bit more of a roll than the 808, but together they sound like this. And altogether, the drums sound like this. Or actually, we can just listen to the entire section. Same thing for the entire track until we get closer to the end. This section C here, it's pretty much the same. The only thing that changes up is we bring in the flutes at the second half of the 8 bars. All right, so that is MJ by Future remade in Logic Pro. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the entire session from the beginning. FLJ by Future remade in Logic Pro. For your Logic Pro users out there, I'm gonna go ahead and save this entire session for you. Place it as a downloadable link below this video. If you don't use Logic, I got your back as well. I'm gonna go ahead and export all the MIDI stems, audio stems, and of course include the drum kit that you heard in this remake. You can find that playback down below the like button as well. If you do have any questions on this or just want to chat or have any suggestions for future videos, let's go and chat down below. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one later. Peace.